Banning of Useful Technology in Classrooms, presented by Lance Sharp, AEP 873 Critical Issues class. I broke my research up into four different categories of technology items that were being banned. The first was computers, applications such as things like Skype, websites such as gaming and social network sites, and then handheld devices was my last section, such as cell phones and iPods. So first was why are computers being banned? The biggest reason given in all the research was that they are a distraction. Students are not answering in-class questions or engaging in in-class discussions. Students are instant messaging each other. Students are on blocked websites such as social network sites. This banning of computers was not a common thing, mainly in select classrooms where the teacher was just tired of students not answering their questions or being engaged in the lesson. Their answer was to just ban the computers from their classroom. It wasn't a school district wide thing. It was just individual teachers feeling that their kids were not, the students were not being fully engaged in a lesson and learning. They were busy, messing around on the internet and doing other things like that. So how are computers useful? This generation of learners has grown up with the technology and used it as a primary method of learning. They are much more adept at multitasking than any previous generation. Our classrooms should resemble real-life job situations as much as possible, making the adult learners believe their learning is relevant and as realistic as possible. Many of the students prefer typing their notes as opposed to writing them now. For one thing, they're much easier to organize, and I know the students can type much faster and more legibly than they can write them. The list continues for a very long time. There's so many useful things that people are using the computers for. I mean, most school districts are trying to do as much as they can technology-wise, going to a one-to-one ratio of computers to students. And like I said on the previous slide, this was a very select few teachers wanting their students to be, listening to their lecture and being more engaged into it. So next was Skype and why it is being banned, or applications. Skype falls under the peer-to-peer category when technology directors set up their firewalls and filters. There is also not a way to regulate who students are contacting, which I found most schools with Skype do not let the students download the application, only the teachers, which then that means administrators can't regulate whom the teachers are contacting and when the teachers are on Skype. Teachers could be on Skype during the school day, connecting with anyone and not doing their job. School districts are also blocking Skype because of the bandwidth. So why is Skype useful? If Skype is used properly, it can completely transform a classroom. Teachers are able to connect their classrooms with other classrooms or to special guests and experts. There is really no limit to the number of ways Skype can enhance the educational experience for the students. I'm actually right now currently trying to set my classroom up. I was today actually talking to a teacher in Norway, and we're setting up a time that our classes will Skype, next week. So there is endless possibilities with applications, Skype being one of those of what you can do to enhance your classroom. Next was why are gaming and social network sites are banned. Educational game websites are blocked because the filters that the technology coordinator has set up block any gaming website, so the students are using their computers for educational ways, not entertainment. This usually is an easy fix. The technology coordinator is able to unblock certain sites if they are needed. The teacher just has to provide the site, what educational purpose it has, and how the teacher plans on using the site. And they usually, from what I found, they have no problem with doing that. Social networking sites would be things such as MySpace, Facebook, Twitter. There are millions of users on these sites daily, and students are always trying to find ways to get around firewalls during school to access their profiles. We have this issue at our school of always trying to get after the kids that are on Facebook, punishing them by taking their computers away for maybe the whole day or something like that, because they're finding new proxies all the time trying to get onto their Facebook. So how are gaming sites useful? All students in today's society have always had gaming systems and countless different games to play. There are also a lot of educational games that have been developed either on the internet or in the physical form that classes could be using. Why not have a teacher teach a lesson over a specific topic like the Pythagorean theorem, for example, and then instead of having the students calculating 100 problems out of the textbook and just doing practice, practice, practice over it, they can play a game where they're still using Pythagorean theorem, and the kids are, more willing to play the game instead of just doing problem after problem. If the teacher is one that has to give grades for everything they do, then there are such sites as studyisland.com where you can have them play games and it will show you how many questions they answered and how many they got correctly. There's also games appeals to different learning styles and increases student engagement, and they develop problem solving and critical thinking skills. Also helps students visualize difficult concepts, develop creativity, provide immediate feedback, and they gain experience through trial and error. How are the social network sites useful? There are a lot of different ways that educators are finding ways to use these sites also. Classes and schools are setting up Twitter accounts. My high school that I graduated from, when I was talking to them recently with my research, they said they actually set up a Twitter account so that if a principal was at an away game and parents and stuff could not make the game, he was on Twitter all the time, twittering telling them the score of the games. So if you weren't able to go to the game, you'd still be able to see, up to date scores all the time. So that was one way they were using their Twitter, and they set up a school-wide account for that. Classes are also setting up accounts on Facebook to contact classes all over the world. This is used to be called, pen pals. What we were used to when we were little, we'd write to somebody in a different country and wait for them to write a letter back. But now it's instant messaging to each other. My last part that I broke my research up into was why are handheld devices banned? Items such as your cell phones and your iPods. There is an issue of electronic cheating. Handhelds with wireless communication capability make beaming answers to classmates all too easy, and appropriate use is also critical. Appropriate use policies and content filtering may need to be addressed before any large-scale handheld deployment. I found lots and lots of ways of how classrooms and teachers are starting to implement these handheld devices and how they're so useful. I have a couple slides here of just some different things of how they are using them. The first one is the concept illustration. Students are able to take difficult to grasp concepts that could be visually illustrated using animations or video that could be played in full or in slow motion. You could do data collection with them. The educational games, they could be playing games on there. There's increased levels and timelessness of feedback. Real-time quizzing and assessments would provide immediate feedback during a concept. Individualized content, lecture notes or slides could be dynamically reformatted based on a student's preferred learning style. Content could be adapted to the student's ability level. Intelligent agents, which would be virtual representatives, software agents. They could be authorized by students to perform background tasks, schedule team meetings, negotiate resources needed for classwork. Just-in-time learning is during a lecture or class activity, students could research unfamiliar terms or flag content for later review. Note dissemination and annotation, using one too many synchronizing software. Instructors could download class notes to each student. Digital notes would enable easy student highlighting and margin comments rather than focusing on capturing every word spoken by the instructor. The digitally distributed notes would allow students to focus on key concepts, and electronically distributed notes coupled with text-to-speech translation would be especially useful to sight-impaired students. Note transcription as an aid in note-taking, they could be used for the students' handwriting recognition or instructor voice recognition. Network intelligent whiteboards could be used to capture instructor board annotations and drawings, and notes could be stored in either a voice or a text format. They could also voice-to-text translation could provide a complete classroom transcript for the hearing impaired. And another one was the online searches of reference material. With always connected handhelds, students could investigate reference material in class. Site tracking utilities could identify the mostly frequently visited web pages. Instructor guided searches would provide students with a role model for finding and filtering information. A lot with the handheld devices was on the note-taking part of it, that students are trying to frantically write down notes, in pencil and pen on their paper, and then the next day they're looking at it, they can't even read half of it, they don't understand it. That with use of some handheld devices and doing some of those different things, they could already have the notes electronically sent to them from the teacher and off to the side. They can either highlight or they could scribble in little notes that made it understand them or made them understand it a little bit better. Again, endless ways that the handheld devices could be used. A lot of podcasts is a thing that everybody's using now. So closing comments about it all. There are tons of ways classrooms can be enhanced with the use of technology. Teachers just have to take the time to research how best to use it and start implementing it. And school districts need to help out by educating teachers on the latest technology and how to use it in each classroom and the benefits of using it. My goal or the reason I chose this topic was I'm interested in knowing what technology I can do in my classrooms and showing the kids what the possibilities are. And I came across some bands and stuff which my technology director was very easily convinced of. I'd like to try doing this, could you unblock it? And I didn't have any problems getting by that. But like I said, I've set up a Skype account. I'm doing a lot of technology things just from doing all this research and finding out what all there is. I mean, it's just taking my own time to just Google things and looking at what the possibilities are, what other classrooms are doing, and start implementing those in my classroom. So here's my references, for all my research, and hopefully you enjoyed the presentation, and that is all.